Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint by Sing Shong. Chapter 298. Reader and Writer. Part 4. Yoo Jong-hyuk died. The fourth wall is shaking violently. It didn't feel real. The fourth wall is severely shaking. The exclusive skill, fourth wall, is strongly activated. I couldn't breathe from the horror that filled my lungs. Why did Yoo Jong-hyuk suddenly get the writer attribute, and why did he choose to die or regress? I seemed to know, but it was hard to understand. There was no more of the original Yoo Jong-hyuk that I knew. Only a handful of stories proved his absence. I felt like this. This is a novel. It is a story in a novel. I slowly inhaled and breathed out again. Yoo Jong-hyuk escaped from being a character. I got tinnitus and my heart beat like crazy. I once again breathed in and out. The exclusive skill, fourth wall, is activated more strongly. My senses slowly returned and the murmurs of the party members were heard. What happened? Didn't you just hear? The scenario is cleared. I slapped my cheeks twice and raised my head as I felt the status of the apocalypse dragon flowing from the seal. The nebula Olympus is preparing the battlefield for the apocalypse dragon. The nebula Vedas is preparing for the disaster. The nebula Tamna. If my prediction was correct, there was still time. I shouted towards the party members scattered all over the place. Everyone gathered together. I have a story to tell. The party members gathered around me, despite their wariness. Someone was supporting the fallen Han Su-yeong, while Kim Namwon and Lee Jae-hai showed strong hostility towards me. After a while, the apocalypse dragon will be released. In relation to that. Shut up. What were you doing earlier? You and Yoo Jong-hyuk joined together to attack Master. Lee Jae-hai screamed as she aimed her blade at my neck. Then Lee Hyun-sung muttered, "Dokja SSI, that thing. Captain. What about this jerk? Should I take care of him?" Kim Namwon filled his hands with the black flames. Han Su-yeong shook her head. Everybody, listen to him. Huh? Listen to him. Han Su-yeong's eyes were open, but the empty pupils proved that he gave up everything. Han Su-yeong resembled me. She might look like this on the surface, but she already understood the situation in her head. Maybe she was thinking about the next plan. I looked around at the party members. Lee Hyun-sung, Kim Namwon, Lee Seolwa, Lee Jae-hai, Shin Yu-sung. The people who survived the 1863rd round. I could have told them the truth about Han Su-yeong. Han Su-yeong was using you. In order to make a new world, she wanted to end your story here. Even so, I couldn't say it. Everybody, take care of the captain. Don't jump to rash conclusions. Listen to Dokja SSI. It was because they were seriously following Han Su-yeong. The group's hostility towards me was dampened by Lee Hyun-sung's words. I started the story. The liberation of the apocalypse dragon isn't over when the seal is released. You might not know it, but the end of this scenario. I looked up at the sky. The other party members also looked up with me. The ceiling sphere was crumpled. The fragments of the seal were breaking little by little. As time went on, the density of the sky was becoming thicker. I relied on the fourth wall and spat out empty words. Go back to the headquarters and prepare for the next scenario. Maybe there will be 3 days left. I could immediately leave the 1863rd round. However, I couldn't do this, because the characters in this turn were people I liked. I earned some time from the liberation of the apocalypse dragon by using the grass-cutting sword as the last key. It was lacking a bit of status to be used as a key, slightly delaying the release of the apocalypse dragon. I had to use this time wisely. Now that Han Su-yeong had chosen this route, the destruction of at least one nebula was determined. The most important thing was to avoid Earth being destroyed. The next day, I handed Lee Hyun-sung a considerable amount of information. They were all plans that I had mapped out beforehand. From avoiding the disaster of the apocalypse dragon to gaining new stories and items. I also handed over the list of the strongest people. Lee Hyun-sung listened to my story from beginning to end and suddenly looked up. How does Dr. SSI know all of this? It is the reason why Han Su-yeong knows. I tried to avoid unnecessary explanations, but Lee Hyun-sung's expression was unusual. Lee Hyun-sung hesitated for a long time before saying something unexpected. Is Dr. SSI a plagiarist writer? Plagiarist writer? You aren't? I'm sorry. I was filled with confusion. Did Han Su-yeong talk about her attributes? Well. Lee Hyun-sung scratched his head with a troubled expression. I couldn't believe it. The prideful and selfish Han Su-yeong showed her original attribute? Why? Everyone get out. I was just thinking this when the door to the Situation Room opened and someone entered. It was Han Su-yeong, who was wearing a hat deep over her face. Yes, I understand. Lee Hyun-sung bowed, packed up, and went out of the room. The only ones left in the room were Han Su-yeong and me. Since I cleared my outer world covenant, it must be the same for Han Su-yeong. In such circumstances, there was no reason for her to show hostility to me. Your mental state seems better. Shut up. Han Su-yeong answered as she folded her arms and sat down on the chair. I asked, why are you complaining? Complaining? Is that what you're calling it? Thanks to you, all the people here might die. I saw the party members waiting outside the room for us. The people gathered outside the transparent wall were talking with serious expressions. It was probably because of Han Su-yeong's desperate expression shortly after Yoo Jong-hyuk's death. I stated, it is better to go to the next scenario than fall asleep forever. Outside the window, Lee Hyun-sung met my gaze and smiled faintly. Lee Hyun-sung knew that Han Su-yeong was a plagiarist. Maybe Lee Hyun-sung knew that Han Su-yeong would abandon them. He was bear-like, but he had a deep heart. Lee Hyun-sung might have predicted that this would happen. Nevertheless, he decided to follow Han Su-yeong. I continued speaking, it isn't over when the Apocalypse Dragon is released. Don't you also know? Han Su-yeong bowed her head and didn't answer. The Apocalypse Dragon that was gradually being freed from the seal. Once freed, there would be a disaster in the star stream. This didn't mean that all future scenarios would end. In fact, in the 1863rd round, Yoo Jong-hyuk freed the Apocalypse Dragon and saw the end of the scenario. Explain it to the members. Everything you did and everything you hid. It might not be a perfect development, but there is a way to do it. There are still many places where you can borrow power. Anna Croft's Zarathustra, the Seekers of the End, the Transcendent King, and the person who lives on the reincarnation planet. I told you to shut up. Han Su-yeong looked up and glared at me. The prideful eyes glared at me from below the hat. By the way, something was strange. Han Su-yeong's eyes were swollen. As I stared at her face, Han Su-yeong growled and pressed her hat lower. I didn't like Han Su-yeong of the 1863rd round. Even so, I could understand Han Su-yeong. The world that she wanted to make was a bit like the world I dreamed of. Han Su-yeong spoke through gritted teeth. Yoo Jong-hyuk became an author. Why did he suddenly get such an attribute? I guess he wanted to write a new story in a very sincere manner. That is the condition to opening the author trait. I could understand, but also didn't understand. A world that couldn't complete the round but was struggling to survive. Yoo Jong-hyuk went out of it in order to write his own story. Han Su-yeong didn't speak, but we could clearly see what the other was thinking. Han Su-yeong raised her head, took off her hat, and lit a cigarette. I asked, how about a question and answer exchange? Don't use the system, because it is annoying. Han Su-yeong smoked with an emotionless face. Lies are included? Okay. You first. I nodded. Who do you think is the author of Ways of Survival? Han Su-yeong once again sucked in smoke and blew it out. Then she replied, a very big baby. Baby? In a world without scenarios, only the desire to see the next story, a baby with a terrible imagination. Something came to my mind. A world without scenarios. There was only one such world in this star stream. Don't tell me. You better not say it with your mouth. Han Su-yeong pointed at the sky. It might be listening. I closed my mouth. It wasn't impossible if that existence was really the writer. However, my head was in a complicated state as I told Han Su-yeong, "It's your turn. Ask." "I'm thinking, please wait. There isn't much time, so ask me quickly." "I'm leaving tomorrow morning." "Tomorrow morning?" "I have fulfilled the outer world covenant and need to go back to my original world." Han Su-yeong frowned slightly. "You are finished and you're going to throw us away?" "That's great. My world is ruined. Everything I know was handed to Lee Hyun-sung. They can proceed to the end without any other help." I thought as I glanced at the people outside the Situation Room. From the beginning, this world was their world. I asked, "When are you going to leave?" "Leave? You have also fulfilled the Outer World Covenant." I wasn't the only one to finish the Outer World Covenant. Yoo Jong-hyuk had died and Han Su-yeong fulfilled his mission. She would now leave to complete her world with the help of secretive plotter. Han Su-yeong? Han Su-yeong stared at the floor and replied, "I'm not going." Chapter 299. Reader and Writer. Part 5. What? I won't go. It was an unexpected answer, so I looked like a fool. Why? Without me, they will all die. I doubted my ears. I couldn't believe that Han Su-yeong could talk like this. My voice involuntarily became louder and aggressive. "Didn't you want to make your own world?" "I can make my world later. Somebody has to lead them." Why all of a sudden? Yoo Jong-hyuk is no longer a character. What do you think that means? I closed my mouth. It is no longer a novel. My heart pounded at Han Su-yeong's words. The exclusive skill fourth wall is strongly activated. It isn't about being forgiven for everything. No matter how the developments flow, we should end the story properly. Han Su-yeong's face couldn't be seen properly because of the brim of her hat. Before my words finished, Han Su-yeong left the Situation Room. I saw Han Su-yeong talking to the people outside the Situation Room. I kept watching. Before leaving, there were a few things that needed to be addressed. One of them was Uriel. I looked down at the confined Uriel doll. She was currently in a state of calm, but once the confinement was over, Uriel would wake up again as the Angel of Flames. She would burn all living things around her. Gabriel's true voice entered my ears. "What are you going to do with Uriel?" "I am thinking." I looked down at Gabriel, who was waving her helplessly drooping petals. Perhaps she was shocked by the situation here. According to the original setting, Gabriel was someone who took good care of other angels. "I'll stay." "It isn't possible." "Why? Is it because I betrayed this place?" I didn't answer. Gabriel acted like it was unfair. "Why did I betray Eden?" "It must have been an unavoidable decision for you. Tell me the details accurately. What happened?" "You know something." "I don't know exactly. If you are curious, go back and talk to Metatron. It wasn't good for me to intervene in this thing. There was a possibility that the development of the third round could find unexpected difficulties because of misinterpreted information." Gabriel's leaves trembled. "If I go back, won't I betray Eden again? Then I would rather remain here. The future can change. We have to go back." I spoke with confidence. This world wasn't our world. Then Uriel. "I told you, I'm thinking." For now, the best option was to leave Uriel to Han Su-yeong. However, I wasn't sure if she could control the Archangel of Flames. The fourth wall is saying, "Do you want me to come out?" There was a way to tell Uriel the story of the third round. However, as I said many times, there was no guarantee that Uriel would hear the story and react like Yoo Jong-hyuk. Perhaps the story of my world line might further ruin Uriel's insecure spirit. Still, there might be a bigger problem if I really left Gabriel here. Moreover, Gabriel couldn't use confinement of good and evil. I would also like to stay a bit longer and help Uriel. I will stay, Gabriel. The petals of the red cosmos swayed. I reflexively bowed my head and the startled Gabriel shouted. Jophiel? It is best that I stay. It was an unexpected declaration. Even I was stunned. It wasn't another archangel. Jophiel was declaring to stay here? I decided after careful consideration. I can control Uriel through confinement of good and evil. Thus, it is right for me to stay here. Jophiel, if you don't return to the original world now, you might never be able to return. There are a few ways to cross world lines. I know, but they all require a tremendous price. It doesn't matter if I can't go back. Jophiel. Jophiel didn't back down, despite Gabriel's cry. This world line also has value. I don't want to depend on this insidious guy, but I think it is better to find out more about this world. I have an obligation to find out why the Eden here was destroyed, what things will happen in the future, and to inform the original world. Jophiel's remark was reasonable. This world was very different from the old 1863rd round, and it would certainly help if information could be sent to the third round. Wait, Jophiel. Why are you making this decision? There is no turning back, Gabriel. A gleam of light emerged from the red cosmos, and this turned into a white light that bound the white lily. It was confinement of good and evil. Gabriel's petals drooped like he fell asleep. Jophiel told me. Please look after Gabriel. Why are you doing this? Uriel needs Gabriel. And Gabriel, both of them are unstable. I thought like Archangel Jophiel. Eden was a nebula made up of archangels. Then you? I don't believe in you, but I have one thing to ask. I hesitated before nodding. After returning to the original world line, please visit Eden. Then I hope you can tell the scribe what happened here. Can you do that? I understand. Certainly, it wasn't a difficult request. I was already planning to visit Eden. Soon after, Jophiel's cosmos flower drooped. It was a seemingly sleepy and tired appearance. I changed the water bottles of the two flowers. Someone was left and someone was leaving. No matter what was chosen, everyone would eventually reach their end. The next morning, I was sent off by the party members. Many things had happened, but the party members said they would send me off. To be precise, it was Lee Hyun-sung who said it. I turned my head and saw Han Su-yeong staring at me with her unique disgruntled face. I handed her a wrinkled notebook. Han Su-yeong bluntly wondered, "What is this rubbish?" "The information you need now." I had selected a few more pieces of information that would be useful for the 1863rd round from Ways of Survival. Sparks rose around Han Su-yeong's body. I vaguely knew its identity. The sparks were related to Han Su-yeong's identity as a character. Don't throw it away and look at it whenever you have time. Han Su-yeong stared down at the notebook I gave her and asked, "Is this okay?" "What?" "The fourth wall is strongly activated." Han Su-yeong stared at me carefully as if reading something on my fate. Then she shook her head. "No, it's nothing." "Never mind." She was unreliable. Lee Hyun-sung listened to the conversation and opened his mouth. "It would have been nice if we couldn't carried out the scenario together. It is unfortunate." Lee Hyun-sung, who became close to me, said goodbye first, and then Kim Namwon stared at me. "Bah, get lost. Give my best regards to the me over there." Of course, it wouldn't happen. I had to go to the next world to speak to Kim Namwon of the third round. The moment I finished the goodbyes and was turning around. "Hey!" Something with a soft weight came flying towards my back. I hurriedly turned my head and grabbed it. A white coat was caught. It was the infinite dimension space coat. "Didn't you never get a clear reward? Take this." It was the coat that Han Su-yeong was wearing. I was dumbfounded. Coming to the 95th scenario and only getting something like this. Han Su-yeong looked at me like I was pathetic. Then a thought crossed my mind. This bastard, don't tell me? I placed my hands in my pocket with a bemused expression and Han Su-yeong asked, the question I didn't ask yesterday, can I finish it now? Speak. Why did you say you wouldn't go back to the third round? It was an unexpected question. Han Su-yeong continued to ask. You were playing my part over there. If you didn't go back, that world would have perished. You should know this, so why? Let's see, why? What? Even without me, the third round would have been fine for a long time. How can you be sure? Han Su-yeong stared at me suspiciously. You are there. Han Su-yeong's expression slightly hardened at my words. Her eyes were shaking with vague surprise. I believe in the you of the third round. Han Su-yeong stared at me for a moment before turning her head away. Quickly get lost. I don't want to see you anymore. I'm going. Stay alive and well. I looked up at the sky. The constellation Demon King of Salvation is looking at the night sky. Secretive plotter. Please fulfill the contents of the covenant. A new portal was created under my feet. It felt like something was pulling at me as the world started to collapse. The world of the 1863rd round was becoming dim. A world different from the original that I knew. It was a short time, but I felt that many things had changed. Lee Hyun-sung waved while the others sent me off with complicated expressions. Just like Yoo Jong-yuk did and I did, they would walk through a world different from the original that I knew. Maybe someday, our worlds might be able to meet one another. However, even if we couldn't meet again, there was no doubt that the world existed. Just like Ways of Survival was to me. The world was dark. I felt dizzy while hearing the voice of an outer god. On ly the sto re without a b jin ning, or end will remain. The ground disappeared and I was sucked into the portal. The metaphysically distorted pathways narrowed and expanded several times. I closed my eyes and let my body flow in an unmeasurable passage of time. I shouldn't have been gone for too long from the third round. After a while, I fell to the ground with a loud sound. The Outer World Covenant has been completed. The compensation will be settled. To be precise, it wasn't the ground. It was the galaxy of the star stream that I had seen before. My body was floating in the emptiness of the universe. I groaned and saw the hem of a black cloak dragging against the ground. You came. It was Secretive Plotter.